and welcome to WRPB and WRPB Studios. Okay, so the gentleman I'm about to bring on, okay, is going to explain to me some of the things that I just don't get, and maybe he has the answer. But before I even go into that, and I've said it a million times, always use a professional. If you don't use a professional, you're going to have 5 times more expense and 10 times more frustration and aggravation. With me is Jonathan from JM Pristine Mobile Detailing. Did I get it right?
Yes, sir, you did. Hi, nice to see you today. Good morning.
Great to see you.
Nice to see all you folks out there.
So, just to give you some credibility and edification,
Sure.
How long have you been around the industry?
So right now, I'd say about 5 years altogether.
Okay, so on God's green earth, why did you get into this?
Honestly, I started out as a yacht restoration helper.
Okay.
And that kind of gave me the footing that I needed that transferred over to this business. Needless to say, the gratification that you get working and seeing the results of something you're putting your hands on day in, day out, and just that attention to detail, it's very gratifying.
So, when people hear mobile detailing, the mobile is not that you just do cars, it's that you come to them.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to clarify that you come to them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I just said it's more than cars. So what do you detail?
So as of right now, we do boats, RVs, all size vehicles, motorcycles, you name it, we're able to service it.
All right. So I'm going to guess that it's probably a little more difficult to do an RV.
Oh, certainly. There's a lot of different parameters that go into, especially types of paint. For example, a paint and a clear coat on a car versus gel coat or fiberglass. So there's a lot when it comes to the industry that's some know-how, and then it's products, quality of the things that you use, the techniques you're using, the equipment. So there's a lot that plays into it.
This is the big question.
Okay.
How come in Florida red cars peel the most and the fastest?
So
do we know why?
We do.
Okay.
So we'll break it down to some level of degree. The long story short, it's Florida. So as you guys know, we get that sun just all the time, and it's beating. The first thing that the sun is actually going to hit, and we experience this a lot on boats. I've got a 21-foot tomorrow, for example. The first thing to go is the roof down. So what happens is the sun is hitting that roof first and foremost, and it's attacking that clear coat. So those UV rays, if you're not maintaining a proper wax kind of maintenance on your vehicles or investments, whatever it is you do have, that sun is just going to destroy it.
Why red, but? Red seems to go the fastest.
So, really, I think it's even just the darker colors in general. Because you start to experience the clear coat just starts to fail when people aren't maintaining them. And at that point, once it's eating into your clear and you have, spots of vulnerability, you're really at a loss for what the paint should be doing.
So it's not fixable after it breaks down, basically.
So there are people who, that would be like more of a body shop thing.
Right.
At that point where they can kind of sand it down, maybe spray and re-clear and things of that nature. So it is salvageable, but of course, you want to utilize a professional like myself before it gets to that level of need of care.
Right. Preventative care.
Preventative care, yes, sir.
So the question then becomes, I have a car. How often should I have it detailed?
So this is a big one for me. I like to educate people, essentially with my business and the things that I know how to do. Basically, it's called decontamination.
Okay.
This is a process that you should do at least quarterly, is recommended. You may be able to get away with twice a year. So this is clear coat care. If you guys want to consider it like a process of exfoliation, like we would for our skin, it's the same concept. Basically, you use these, it's iron removal, which is chemical decontamination. Then you pair that with mechanical decon, which is clay bar. So if you're not utilizing those things, essentially you're leaving layers of contamination on the vehicle's exterior. What that'll do, if you guys could probably hear the sound that I'm making here on this table, and it sounds kind of smooth, but it's also grainy. It's a little rough. essentially you'll get that same thing with a buildup on the exterior of the paint of the vehicle. And that sandpaper, that hard, grainy feel, is not a good look for your clear coat.
Is it, so is that grainy stuff eating into your clear coat?
It's a buildup on top of the clear coat.
Okay.
And basically, like we would in exfoliation, you get that kind of smooth, your pores are able to breathe again. It's the same concept with the vehicle.
So what I'm getting from you, and I could be wrong, in between every quarter getting your car detailed like that,
Mhm.
you should keep it clean anyway.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But that quarterly stuff that you're talking about is something that you should have done by a professional.
Most definitely.
You can't go and buy a product to be doing that because it's going to be not, I don't know the right word to say that I can say on the air,
Mhm.
but if you're doing it yourself, the chemicals and stuff are like half butt.
Sure.
Okay? I don't even use the other word.
I think I'll explain, and I see where you're going with it. But long story short is, you have to know the technique, you have to know the manner in which to apply the product, and you have to be able to do all those things in the uniform way that it should be done. So, for example, iron removal that I was talking about is a product that is detrimental. It could be detrimental to the finish of the vehicle if not used in the right manner. So what that means is knowing how to use the product, knowing when to remove the product, knowing how long it should dwell, things of that nature. So this decon wash is only just one step of the battle. You then still have to protect your clear coat, which should be either a sealant or a wax or ceramic or a graphene. Now, all of this is, like I said, something that you would utilize a professional like myself, so that at the end of the day you get the results you're looking for and you get really the value of what you actually purchased.
Okay, so you mentioned like 4 different things to protect your clear coat, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is it different for different cars, for different vehicles, or because it goes? I'm a big DIY don't doer.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
because every time I do a DIY,
Mm-hmm.
I'm frustrated, aggravated, and as soon as I decide to do one, and I say to my wife, it's a breeze. It's always a nightmare.
I understand.
Okay, always a nightmare.
For
So, you mentioned 4 different products.
Mm-hmm.
So the novice,
Mm-hmm.
and of course even a novice detailer,
Yes.
might not know which product to use.
Very true. And that's again why it's essential to have the right person for the right job. Ultimately, they break down to, are they natural? Are they synthetic? Is it a liquid? Is it a paste? Is it a spray? Sealants, for example, they're more about encapsulating, versus a wax kind of blends into the finish. But they're both provide protection, depending on the product, whatever the time frames may be. Ceramics, for example, same concept. You have ones that go for a month, ones that are 6 months, all the way up to commercial grade 10 years.
Wow.
Then you have graphene. I'm not big into that, so please don't even get me started on that one. But what I will say, the higher end of what I am able to do now is the ceramic coating. So I'm in the process of getting accredited as an installer. Can't say too much on that right now. But I will say it just comes down to the professional, comes down to what they're able to do and what they know. Are they able to use a buffer or a DA, things of that nature.
Okay, so what I heard in that conversation, okay,
Yes, sir.
is that you were going for certification,
Sure.
which means, in my opinion, that you care enough if you're going to do something to do it right.
100%.
Okay, so we spoke about the outside of the car because that's what everybody sees. But what about the inside? Like, if you look at certain people's cars, their dashboards are cracking.
Yeah.
We live in weather that's just killer for so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Is there stuff that you can use on, a lot of times it's plastic or whatever,
Vinyl, different
vinyl,
surfaces.
to
Sure.
keep it from cracking and stuff?
Most definitely, UV protection is massive, and that's something that if you're getting any routine maintenance by a reputable professional detailer, um, they will be doing and applying to the interior, the plastics, the trims, the vinyl, the leather, conditioning, things of that nature. As we just discussed, for the exterior of the vehicle, it applies the same. Think about like an oven. You know, when that's cooking, it's all inside, right? So the heat's just swelling up and it's just making these temperatures that are just obviously what you're looking for at that time because you want to cook something. Same concept is happening to the interior of your vehicle. So that sun's beating on the exterior and it's heating up the internal temperature. What's going to happen is, like for example, you mentioned the dash cracking. When you see that, that's just poor maintenance. Nobody was keeping up with UV protection on that surface and allowed that UV rays to just eventually create such a brittle and dry surface to the point that it just starts to crack.
It's hotter in my car than in my oven.
I believe you. I believe you. It's Florida. We
It's
know this.
Yeah, the other day I got my car, I couldn't touch my steering wheel.
Okay.
Okay, so my car, because I use it for work and whatever,
Yes, sir.
has stains on the cloth seat, I
Okay.
guess. Can you get those out? I mean, are those things that you can get out a lot
Most
of times?
definitely. So for me, interior is something that we definitely specialize in. We're big on, like you said, utilizing all the right tools, techniques, and processes to have just immaculate finish. So what I mean in that respect, things like steam cleaning, interior shampoo, and extraction with a commercial machine. Um, I mean, it's endless when you talk about it. Now, when we mention cloth, you mentioned these stains that you're
Right.
seeing.
They're like a bunch of little dots.
They're everywhere. They're surface level, and just cloth is a very difficult thing to maintain and keep pristine because what happens is you could literally go to the beach one day, for example, say you do all the proper care things and you washed off, you dried, there's no more sand on you. You get in the car, you think everything's great. You may be a little, say your clothes are damp.
Right.
Now, the dampness absorbs into your cloth that you just sat on, and that transfer allows those stains.
You know, I want to, because time goes so fast here,
Sure.
I want to go and talk, because you mentioned boats.
Yes, sir.
So I was just talking about my cars and the dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
So they're inside.
Sure.
They don't get direct beating from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But a boat and whatever the vinyl or plastic or whatever, it gets direct beating from the sun.
Certainly.
Is that treated differently than you would the inside of a car?
I mentioned this as I brought up the boats earlier
Mhm.
because I have a 21 foot I'm doing tomorrow. It's going to be a full compound polish and wax. So the situation with that, it's similar to the roofs. The first thing you're going to see are the T-tops and the toe rail. So what happens is you'll get into a state of oxidation, which is that chalkiness. Basically, the clear coat is clogged, and the UV is just beat on it so hard that now you have a dull and a flat surface where it should be shiny and glossy. So that's something that requires compound. And obviously, you don't want it to get to that point. So that's
Right.
why it's so important to have that proper care and maintenance that you're keeping up with. And I will just backstep a little. For those of us that are watching with our vehicles, what can help is if we just grab that, that we should cover the windshields with.
The plastic shades or
The
whatever?
plastic shades, it's 10, 15 bucks maybe at Walmart.
And I see that and I think, yeah, they're not going to do nothing. I had my windows tinted,
Yes, sir. That helps.
It helps a
Ceramic
little
tinting,
bit,
things of that nature.
but again, a boat is not like that. A boat is pretty
Right.
open. A lot of
Right.
people won't cover their boats.
That's very true.
And now the fiberglass, because boats are fiberglass, are getting hit with these rays constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess they're treated differently than the normal car because a vet is fiberglass.
Sure.
So it's treated differently. Is there any kind of car that is like your favorite to do?
This is a tough question. I'll be honest. The coupes, people they always like when I categorize vehicles, for me a sedan, whether it's a 2-door or a 4-door, I consider them all the same. I lump them together. Somebody may say, well, it's just a coupe and it's just got the 2 seats and the back seat and it's less space. The reality is, it's even going to take longer than the Acura four-door would.
I get it,
because
because
now
you have two doors.
because you're cramped. So you have no maneuverability inside the vehicle to actually get to that level of cleanliness that you would just breeze through in, say, a Honda Civic.
Right.
So I do categorize those differently because of that aspect.
Well, I'm older than dirt, so thinking about doing a vet that's really low to the ground
Yes.
is going to be a pain in the butt, I would think.
Yeah.
We're getting to the top of our time. How do people find you? You have a website?
Yes, sir. jmpristinemobile.com, and then that's our contact number there on the screen. You'll see us on Instagram, Facebook. We have great, strong 5-star reviews based on our Google. Our Yelp is a bit newer, so give that some time to grow. I mean, reach us. We're happy to quote you. Everything is free. For things like bolts or ceramic coatings, I prefer to come and see them in person. That helps me to get a better understanding of the condition they're in and what steps they may need to get to the result you're looking for.
Okay. If I called you basically today,
Sure.
what's your time frame out that you can do a unit?
So I'm gonna be completely honest.
Yeah, that's,
The way
we
that
like you that way.
Yes, sir. and I one thing about my business, I try to maintain integrity, communication, and timeliness, because time is money. So when it comes down to it, I like to try to get people in, of course, on their needs.
Right.
So please don't feel reluctant to call if, say, you have an emergency spill in the vehicle or something of that nature. It needs to be taken care of right away. We'll always try to curtail the needs of a client.
Cool. Everybody, use a professional. Don't be foolish. I have been there. I'm old enough to know and tell you that you're not going to be happy, usually with the results, but moreover with the frustration.
Most
Jonathan,
definitely.
thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Everybody will be right back.